Hi, my name is Rob Baker, and I'm running for a seat on the Springfield City Commission. I appreciate that you've navigated to my website to learn a little bit more about who I am and what my qualifications for office are. I have 4 podcasts on my website. This one deals with some of my positions on issues facing the city of Springfield. First of all, I'd like to point out that the purpose of city government is to provide efficient and effective services to all people in the city, and particularly to be good stewards of the resources that are available for those services. I'm strongly supportive of the use of cooperation to bring about new approaches to resolving problems. Cities like Springfield face many challenges, and they can't deal with them alone because these challenges cross jurisdictional boundaries. Cooperation has to occur between other governments like counties and townships, as well as the for-profit and nonprofit sectors. Areas for potential cooperation that I think we could look at include law enforcement dispatching, parks and recreation, neighborhood enhancement, and housing. In particular, the housing problem that is facing Springfield is a very difficult one. The city can't solve the problem alone. It requires cooperation between builders, banking institutions, as well as nonprofit institutions and organizations like Habitat for Humanity, Neighborhood Housing Partnership, and other organizations that are concerned about the housing problem. A lot of cities have looked at trying to encourage bankers and other financing institutions, builders, as well as home buyers to build and finance homes in the city. I think some of the incentives that are offered in these communities for getting folks to do this could be potentially applicable to Springfield, and I urge that we try to look into this a little bit more. As a former city manager and city administrator in Slater, Missouri in the early 1980s, I learned the importance of city government to economic development for any community. And there are 2 advantages that cities can provide to the economic development process. One is infrastructure, and the second one is tax incentives. Infrastructure, in the form of good transportation and utility systems, is critical to business expansion as well as for businesses who are thinking about relocating to the community. We need to be as proactive as we can to seek out sources of funding, even in these difficult economic times, to continue to maintain and upgrade our utility systems as well as our transportation systems. We need to seek relationships with other granting institutions like state and federal government, as well as cooperation with other local governments to continue to improve our infrastructure. Tax incentives are pretty interesting as a form of encouraging business and economic development. But the problem is they can be used in ways that might not necessarily benefit the community as well as they could. Interestingly enough, the research on tax incentives and how important they are to CEOs in relocation decisions, expansion decisions, is pretty mixed. CEOs are looking mostly at the quality of education, the community environment, and access to their markets. Now, they're not going to turn down tax incentives, that's for sure, and they often will play cities off against each other, and there's a danger in this that cities might give up too much. So when tax incentives are used, we have to be careful that they're prudently used and to make sure that the jobs that are created are good jobs and they're going to be permanent jobs. Another concern with tax incentives and tax abatements in particular relates to the property tax. Cities like Springfield do not rely very much on the property tax, but school districts do. So when we abate those taxes, it's the school districts that are not getting the future revenue for a while. I certainly support the policy that exists right now to allow Springfield City Schools and other school districts to at least comment on the potential abatement decisions that are going to be made. I also agree with the idea of revenue sharing for future revenues in the growth areas of Next Edge Technology Park as well as the industrial parks in Springfield. The development that's going to occur there is not necessarily going to benefit the city of Springfield, and I will work to maintain the existing cooperative revenue sharing agreements as well as trying to encourage the creation of more revenue sharing agreements. Finally, I think we should take a look at Springfield's policy on development incentive agreements, or DIAs as they're called. These are typically boilerplate agreements, and I think we might consider negotiating individually with businesses for DIAs. And this might enhance business opportunities and economic development opportunities for our community. In short, I'm committed to maintaining jobs and improving economic development opportunities for all citizens in Springfield, and I encourage you to support me for City Commission. In November, you'll have 3 votes for City Commission. I encourage you to certainly cast one of those votes for me. Thanks for listening.